We began the first chapter of Gittin, of the Tractate of Divorce, discussing a bill of divorce, which is brought from across the water, brought from a foreign land. So, of course, the witnesses who might have validated it are not immediately available. Turns out that the person who brings the get is going to swear that they saw the witnesses write it, and they saw it signed, and they saw it witnessed, saw it signed. And then in the first chapter, the Mishnah goes off on a bit of a tangent to explore some of the differences between marriage and slavery, and maybe certain aspects of the nature of the get itself. And now, as we begin the second chapter, we're going to go back to this question. What happens with a get brought from abroad? And we're going to delve a little bit more deeply into the nature of the testimony that's needed. And then we're going to, as the chapter develops, get into the nitty-gritty of how we write a get and how it's delivered. So in the second chapter, we really start to get into the technical details of how we write a bill of divorce. And that will take a few chapters before we segue off again into other topics, related to, I would say related to breakdown and to repair. Because those ideas, breakage and repair, are essentially the themes of this tractate. But let's begin where we are. Hamevi get mi medinat Hayam ve'amar, someone who brings a get from abroad, from somewhere across the water, and he says, "B'fanai nichtav, aval lo b'fanai nichtam, lo b'fanai nitchatam." It was written in my presence, but it wasn't signed in my presence. Or maybe he says, "B'fanai nitchatam, aval lo b'fanai nichtav." It was signed in my presence, but it wasn't written in my presence. Or we're going to go halfway. B'fanai nichtav kulo u'b'fanai nitchatam chetzio. It was written in my presence, but it was only half of it was signed in my presence. I think that means, by the way, that one of the two witnesses signed it in his presence. The other way around. B'fanai nichtav chetzio. Half of it was written in front of me. Uvafanai nitchatam kulo. All of it was signed in my presence. So he's seen the two witnesses, but he hasn't seen the writing. And the Mishnah just rules straight away that this get is pasul. Now, whether it's pasul forever, or whether it's pasul until it's validated by the witnesses, until the witnesses make the journey from across the sea. And we already said, by the way, in the first chapter that if the bearer of the get can't make the correct declaration, then it has to be validated by the witnesses. They have to make the journey. But the Gemara asks, is this get invalid forever, or is it just invalid until until the witnesses show up? And we could go down that we could go. I don't think we have time to go down that hole, but we sort of understand the principle, which is that and we learned it from the pasuk when we looked at the first chapter, that a get requires two witnesses. In principle, we need two witnesses. It needs to be written. It needs to be written for the woman for whom it's intended. We'll see in a minute, it needs to have a date on it. And if it doesn't meet these qualifications, then it doesn't work. Let's look at some other examples of boundary cases. Echad omer b'fanai nichtav, ve'echad omer b'fanai nitchatam. Pasul. So this get seems to be brought by two messengers. One of them said it was written in my presence, and one of them says it was signed in my presence. So we have two bearers, but they don't corroborate one another. And we don't have one person who can say, look, in my presence it was written, and in my presence it was signed. And it's invalid. Shnaim omrim, what if two people say it's written in our presence, and another say it was signed in my presence. So we have witnesses. Remember, a pair is a valid set of witnesses. So the pair can give evidence, but we need witnesses to the signing. And we've only got one who says it was signed in my presence. So it's pasul, it's invalidated. Now, Rabbi Yudah will disagree. Rabbi Yudah machshir. Rabbi Yudah says that if you have two witnesses who agree that the get was written in their presence, we can accept that. He seems to think the writing of the get is the most important thing. But the halakha, by the way, doesn't follow Rabbi Yudah. We'll see in a minute. Well, let's see the opposite example. אחד אומר בפניי נכתב, ושניים אומרים בפנינו נתחתם kasher. This is the only missing case where the get is valid. One person says, I saw it written, and two people say, I saw it signed. And at that point, it's kasher, even though we don't have, if you like, full testimony from one person. It's kasher because we have two witnesses for the signing. And we can see from this example that as far as the sages are concerned, it's the signing of the get, which is the crucial act that needs to be attested to by the witnesses. It's the signing of the get, not the writing of the get, that seems to, if you like, be the hurdle that we have to get over. What about the date? Nichtav bayom nichatam bayom. Let's say it was written in the day, v'nichatam bayom, and it was signed during the day. This must mean, by the way, during the same day. We'll see from context. We must be talking here about the same day. Written by day, signed on the day. Balayla v'nichatam balayla. Written at night and signed in the night. Same deal. Nitchatam bayom, balayla. The Mishnah says balayla v'nitchatam bayom. In the night, this must mean written in the night. V'nitchatam bayom. It's written in the night and it's signed during the day. And the Mishnah rules kasher. Why is it that we can run over from a night to a day? Well, we have a principle that night precedes day. Vahi erev, vahi voker. It's the famous pasuk in Bereshit. It was evening and it was morning. The Jewish day starts at night. So if we write the get at night, we can still sign it in the following day. Obviously, if we write it during the day, we can sign it same day, or write it at night, we can sign it same night. But if we write it at night, we can still sign it the following day. And it won't work the other way round. Bayom, during the day, that means written during the day. V'nitchatam balaya, written during the day and signed at night, pasul. If it's written during the day and signed at night, it's pasul, because by the time that day passes, by the time the new night begins, it's a different day. And the date of why is the date of a get important? Well, if there's a question about marriage or adultery, we need to know when the divorce happened. We need to know the date when the get was effective. So the date is a crucial, and we'll see this later as the halakha develops through the rest of the tractate. The date is a crucial part of the get, and this Mishnah is effectively teaching us that the get is a crucial part. Rabbi Shimon machshir, shaya Rabbi Shimon omer kol hagitin shenichtavin bayom v'nitchatmu balayla psulin chutz mikitei nashim. Now, Rabbi Shimon is going to disagree, by the way. The halakha doesn't go according to Rabbi Shimon, but he validates it because he takes the view that any document written by day and signed by the night is invalid. And he's thinking about essentially monetary documents here. And of course, the date is crucial. When you're writing let's say we're writing a deed for a loan, for a debt. So we are mortgaging some property. We're mortgaging our property either specifically or generally in support of that debt. Well, the time of that obligation is crucial, because if another legal obligation is entered into by the same borrower, then the order of seniority of the different creditors' claims is going to depend on the time order in which they were taking on. In other words, the earlier claim is going to be considered to be the more senior. So time is really crucial in terms of monetary instruments. And Rabbi Shimon is going to say, gosh, in the case of the get, the monetary damages, or let's say the monetary impact, he's not talking about possible adultery. He's saying the monetary impact of the divorce is based on the ketubah, not based on the get. And the ketubah, of course, has a date on it. Of course, the ketubah has a date on it, and of course, its obligations remain senior. But the date of the ketubah is nothing at all related. It has nothing to do with the date of the get. And when the wife exercises her rights, she's going to exercise them via the ketubah, not via the get. And so, according to Rabbi Shimon, actually, the date on the get can be left indeterminate. It can be allowed to drift by, well, by one, in this case, drift by one day, because written in the day, but not signed until the following night.